Hey dude. Okay, I just wanna like, sorry, I'm pretty sick. I just wanna try to like round up stuff and make a couple more points. I'm a bit sick, so you know, I was gonna try and draw this all out, but fuck me, my brain is just mush. Okay, so I've just got these random drawings. Okay, so I'm sorry if I keep coughing. So this is the basic idea. Okay, we got ourselves a mesh. We got a line going through it. That's the axis, and then the mesh bends. Hold on, I'm just typing to some dude. Okay, well there's three points that I want to make. Okay, the first one is the independence of the path, right? So, I mean, at the moment what we're doing is we're taking these various points and tangents and then using that to generate a path. But the important thing to realize is that in order to bend a mesh, all we need is a path, right? We need two things in order to bend a mesh, okay? The first thing is we need to know the relative, oh shame man, okay, so the first thing that we need to know is for every single vertice, what is the position, you know, relative to this axis, right? It's basically, you know, so okay, so the axis goes up through this mesh, and remember, I mean, the whole point is that when we bend something like this, that the only part that bends is along this axis. So anything perpendicular to this bending doesn't change, right? So if we know the position of this thing in the xy terms on this plane perpendicular to the line, then that's going to be the same thing over here. The only thing, you see what I mean? So this line over here is going to be the same as this line over here. They both stay perpendicular to this axis. So this point over here of this line, the center point, was over here, and then it bent up like up to over there or across, right? So those are the only two things you need to know. How far along this line to go from the base of it, how far along up to go, and then so you can basically describe it like x, y, z, and basically for every single point on the vertice, every single point in vertice in the mesh, all we need to know is what can be described as just x, y, z, where this point here is the origin, right? And you can call x the length along here, then y across, and then z in, you know? So it's basically just a coordinate system that we've described, you know, where, and all we've done is just change the meaning of each value, where instead of the one axis being kind of like some kind of global variable, it's actually just relative, you know. And it's pretty amazing because it's really simple, and you can use this to bend any mesh. You know, you can imagine this mesh doesn't have to look like this. It can look like anything. It could be a sphere. It could be a blob. You know, you know, every single vertice is going to. All we've decided was that any plane perpendicular to this line is going to remain constant. All the vertices in that plane are going to remain constant relative to each other, right? And that's what this describes. Yeah. okay, so yeah, there's two things. So okay, so okay, in this path that we describe, okay, remember, so once we've defined, you take the mesh when it's just in its unbent state, which is the state that we start with, right? The only thing that you need to do is firstly define the points where this line goes through, right? So it'll basically be the bottom center, right, or whatever. But the point is that just remembering that this is going to go up this line like this. Once we've decided which way the mesh is going to go and what it's going to look like, you could rotate this mesh around this axis and it wouldn't make a difference. Okay, but then if you can just, for every single vertex in the mesh, give it the XY coordinates as we described, right? And it's basically just the XY coordinates with this as the origin, then we'll be able to bend it along any path that we define. And that's the other thing I want to talk about, is that this path doesn't have to be a Hermite path like I describe it. It can be anything. As long as, remember, all we need to know for the path is two things. We need to know the origin of the path, just a point, and we need to know the position of a certain distance along the path. So if we give it like value 10, we need to know this position here, or like, I can't actually see where the fuck this path is going. But you see what I mean? Like that's all we need, is a function for which we give it a value, we give it an arc length, and out comes a position. So if we give it 0, we put it here. If we give it 1 here, 2 here, x, y, z, blah, blah. That's all we need. If we have the x, y, z coordinates of the of the axis aligned mesh, and we have a function that gives us a position for a length, then we can bend any mesh along that path. How's your week been? Okay, I feel like I'm not really saying everything I wanted to. Let's see if these other images are like, these are just random drawings that I made. Okay, so this is currently how we describe it. Why don't you take some time off? I hate doing that. Dude, I'm sorry to make you sit here listening to me cough and type to this fucking chat site. You wouldn't believe the fucking chat site I'm on. Okay, so this is the situation that we currently have, right? And this is in 2D. So all of these segments are the same size. Remember, they don't actually have to be the same size. I mean, we might not want each of these road segments to look the same, right? Some of them might be like a crossway. Some of them might just be a piece with a tree on it or whatever. Some of them might be shorter than the others. But right now they're all the same size. And the way we define the path is with these points that don't have to be equally spaced. But that doesn't have to matter. So what I'm going to do is have these three levels. This is what I wanted to write out. The one is that we're just going to have some generic interface. Is that what they called? Interface called path. And it's just a function. It's just defined that you have a function that gives position. A function called position at some arc length. Right? And that's going to be a generic thing, and then we're going to have an implementation of it using called Hermite, which you construct using a list of points, and tangents, and that will give you a path in a certain manner. But there's tons of ways we could do paths. We could do it with an equation. We could do it with just a fixed set of values. But you aren't a machine, hey? Yeah, I've taken so much time off already. Okay, so that's the one thing I want to say. So that the path, the way we generate the path, is totally separate to what we need in order to bend this, which is just a generic thing. Oh yeah, and the other thing I want to talk about is that there's really two things that we're going to need here to generate the road, right? The one is a path. Okay, a global path. It's just a single one. Like the Hermite thing breaks this up into these little pieces, but we're gonna just have this function called path, where you give it a arc length, and it gives you a position anywhere between here and that. And the Hermite version of it is gonna have to kind of see where in these segments you are according to the arc length, and then gets the position from that kind of piece of the equation. But that's going to be completely hidden from what you really have. It's just this one function with arc length, right? So you give it that function with arc length, and you give it a mesh, right? And it's not going to be a mesh piece or mesh segment. It's going to be use the preview, you idiot. Right, so we're going to have two things. We're going to have a path. Okay, forget this, calculate arc length of path. Yeah, well that's what we're going to do. So we're going to have a path. You calculate the full length of the path, and then you just slot together as many pieces that line up in a straight line the total length of this path, right? And then using those two, this is going to be one entire mesh, and you just pull in and you pass in one mesh, one path, and bam, Bob's your uncle. Yeah, okay. Geez, ballsy kid, man. He's like, you know, he's like in his, I think he's like 21 years old, and he's like, you know, made a date with some random dude that's like 10 years older than him. Fucking hell. Bend mesh segments vertices. Okay, so that's part, step 3. Okay, so I mean that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make. Like, is that we're gonna pass in this, you know, this global mesh where, you know, where every single one of the vertices is defined in terms of like some kind of that like axis aligned, that bending axis aligned XYZ. That's good. Oh fuck, I feel like I haven't really said anything. I hope this is all making sense to you. I'm gonna keep going. Oh, there's another thing I want to talk about, is like, and I don't have any time, I only have 15 minutes with this recording software. But what about rotation? Even though this line might be straight, right, and there's no bending, what happens if we want this end here to rotate along that axis? That's another, you know, I really want to just keep going with this fucking bending thing until we fucking nailed it, you know, until there's nothing else to consider, and then we can move on. You know, I hope you don't mind. I just want to keep going, keep hashing this out, keep pushing until it all makes a lot of sense. Okay, well that's the end of this video. Hopefully another one coming. I hope these aren't annoying you. Cheers, Eddie.